Hey, welcome to the first episode of the new year and episode 43 of the Reluctant Leader podcast. I'm Paul Jenkins. I'm your host. And today I want to share with you one of my favorite quotes ever from a presidential speech, and also some encouragement from the Word about rhythms and how we don't need to let them make us lazy. Thanks again for being with me for this episode. Let's jump into the quote and how God wants us to do the hard thing. Yeah, so I've got Eden sitting here with me on my lap. She's sleeping while I record this. And it is a new year, y'all. Full disclosure, January is not my favorite month. It's always been kind of we all tend to have these seasonal rhythms, and some are high and some are low. January for me has always kind of been a melancholy month, and it just got me thinking about rhythms. And it's so easy sometimes to establish a rhythm, but then get stuck in it, right? We either become like go, 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 or we never do anything. And I've always been encouraged by a quote from a speech given by JFK before I was even born, y'all. This was way back in 1962. Some of you have heard it, and maybe even when I read it, you'll be like, hey, I know where I was when I heard it for the first time. He said, "We choose to go to the moon in this decade and do the other things, not because they're easy, but because they are hard." And one of my rhythms this year is reading through the New Testament twice. So I'm taking 6 months to go through the New Testament. And I'm just taking my time, right? This morning I was in Matthew chapter 17, and Peter, James, and John go up with Jesus to a mountaintop. It's the Transfiguration, and they see Jesus' glory. And Peter says this in Matthew chapter 17, verse 4. He says, "Lord, it is good for us to be here. If you wish, I'll put up 3 shelters, one for you, one for Moses, and one for Elijah." So there's something about seeing the glory of God that makes us want to just pitch a tent and stay there, right? But in Hebrews chapter 10, verse 39, the author of Hebrews says this, "But we don't belong to those who shrink back, but to those who have faith and are saved." And the simple encouragement I want to share with you today is that we don't belong to those who shrink back. But sometimes we do need to step back, right? And I think when Jesus took Peter, James, and John up on that mountaintop, he was giving them the opportunity to step back. Peter had just confessed that Jesus was the Messiah, and he was giving them a chance to step back and see him in all of his glory so that they could go back down the mountain and finish the work. That's what the author of Hebrews is getting at. We don't belong to those who shrink back, but to those who have faith and are being saved, to those who step back for a season to recuperate, to restore their joy, to restore their strength so that they can move forward in faith and be saved. I don't know what you've got planned for 2025. I know I've got some plans. And some of those plans are big. They're hard things. And because they're hard things, we've got to lean into the rhythms of rest and Sabbath and solitude so that we can step into those hard seasons full of faith and strength. I just love the way the president challenged our country and how our country responded. It sounds like a coach in a locker room, right? Hey, this isn't going to be easy, but that's exactly why we're doing it. Let's go do the hard things. And I just want to say to you, church, today that God calls his body to hard things. If they weren't hard, they wouldn't require faith. But also, if they weren't hard, we wouldn't find ourselves leaning into the rhythms that he has called us to. 6 days to work, a 7th day to rest, to restore our health, to acknowledge him as holy and God of all the work that we can't do, so that on that next first day, we can go hard again and do the things that he's called us to do. Wherever you find yourself today, would you be encouraged? with this truth. God has called you to do hard things. And Ephesians 2:10 says that he's created you with the ability in his strength to pull it off. Hey, don't ever feel guilty for stepping back and taking the break you need, but don't ever allow it to cause you to shrink back and stay in a corner. Let the Lord give you strength and then step forward in faith and do the hard thing. Hey, thanks again for joining me for this episode. And I want to encourage you to like the podcast and share it with some friends. Subscribe to it so you can automatically be notified when new episodes post. I've also got a couple things I can offer you going into the year. Number one, I'm writing again on the blog weekly. And so if you'd like to go to pauljenkins.tv, you can subscribe to receive those alerts each week when something new posts. And I've also started a weekly newsletter called The Launchpad. I'm super excited about this. It's just a fun little email every Monday morning that is delivered to your inbox to help you get your week off the ground. Literally just puts fuel on the fire for the week ahead. And I hope you'll take advantage of it and share it with a friend as well. We've gotten some great reviews so far. I think you'll love it. Hey, have a great day. Have a great week. And remember, when you give God your yes, he'll take care of the rest. We'll talk to you next time.